This is Pet Life Radio. Let's talk pets.
Welcome, pet parents and feline friends. This is Michelle Fern, host of Cattitude. Okay, what does Mutts have to do with cats? Stay tuned. I'm going to tell you all about it. We'll be right back.
It's the Cats of Laughing Thunder in The New Businesses Adventure. Follow the hilarious adventures of the cartoon cats of Laughing Thunder as they each launch a business to earn money. Sven starts a cooking show with dishes that are a bit bizarre. Yolanda builds a robot with serious issues. Fritz buys a blimp to film weather videos. Pumpkin publishes a how-to-be unmannerly website, but they face many troubles along the way. From silly adults to stupid teens, from unruly robots to wild weather. Will they succeed? Find out in this awesome illustrated children's fiction book featuring the Cats of Laughing Thunder in the New Businesses Adventure. You can purchase their latest adventure book at shop.laughingthunder.com. That's shop.laughingthunder.com.
Let's Talk Pets on PetLifeRadio.com.
Welcome back, everyone. I am so excited to have with me the creator of the comic strip Mutts. He created it in 1994. It's in over 700 newspapers in 20 countries. He's won numerous awards, including the Reuben for Cartoonist of the Year. He's written several children's books. He's involved in many environmental and animal charities. He's on the board of directors for the Humane Society of the United States and the Fund for Animals. And I am thrilled and honored to have with me today Patrick McDonnell. Welcome, Patrick.
Hi, Michelle. How are you?
I'm fine. You sound so humble. But, you know, I found your comic strip Mutts, and I know I read it a long time ago and recently, rediscovered it. And I was just amazed. And I just want to give a shout out for people that have not heard about you. You have to go to mutts.com and read all about it, because your comic it's not like, I don't think that's like anything else, because there's things that you add to it that give it a special twist. And we'll get into that a little more. But how did you come up with the idea for Mutts?
Well, Mutts is a combination of my two loves. I've always loved comic strips, the art of comic strips, and I've always loved animals. So it was nice to combine the two. So, I wanted to be a cartoonist since I was a little boy, about 5 years old, mainly because of Peanuts, and I was in love with Snoopy. And we had cats growing up. And then later in my life, I started doing magazine illustrations, but the whole time I kept on thinking I really want to do a comic. And then I got my first dog, Earl, and he really inspired Mutts.
I think Earl and Mooch is a tuxedo cat. Were they the first two in the series?
Yeah, those were the two stars. And it's funny, it started out with Earl. I was doing a comic strip about my dog, Earl. And I thought it'd be funny if he met a cat next door. And I thought it would be good for maybe a week's worth of jokes. But once I drew Mooch, like most cats in my life anyway, they kind of come into your home and take over. So Mooch the cat immediately became the star. And I thought they made a good team, Earl and Mooch.
Yeah, I love Earl and Mooch together. And that's so right. All of my cats, actually my first one, Dennis, I opened the door, he literally walked in and stayed. And it was cold out, walked in, and he just stayed. And that was 9 or 10 years ago. So, and we have Dennis. I love the names that you have. And you don't just have, Mooch and Earl. You have a huge cast of characters.
Over the years, it has grown.
Yeah, I mean, you have a lot, though. There's 4 or 5 cats. You have fish, you have snails, you have, a crab, And I like how the crab talks. And by the way, and there's squirrels, there's birds, there's a snail. I don't know if the seal is staying as a full-on character or not, but it's this huge cast of characters. How did you come up with the idea to add some of them, like the crab? Where did that come from?
Well, the crab come from, I live in New Jersey, and everybody in New Jersey goes down the shore for the summer, which I've done my whole life. And I thought it would be nice if Earl and Mooch went on vacation. So I had them go down the Jersey Shore. And it was a really nice opportunity to do a whole bunch of animals that I haven't been able to put in their backyard. So that's where the crabs and the fish and the whales come in. And, I'm just, it started out as a dog and cat strip. I thought everyone could relate to their own dog and cat and, respond to that bond we all have with our animals. And then as the strip progressed, I just, trying to see the world from their point of view, from the animal's point of view, I think I got more empathetic and more compassion, and I just branched out and started to feel, why can't people feel that way about all animals the way they feel about their own dog and cat? So that's kind of the message of Mutts.
That's really touching, and that's great because some people do have crabs as pets. I've heard of everything as pets, so squirrels and frogs, and I don't know about snails, but probably somewhere somebody has a snail as a pet, I'd imagine. Okay. I also want to know how you came up with the names. Like you have Shtinky Puddin, which also has that cool dialect, and Sourpuss and Chickpea. Chickpea especially. How did you, and Mooch, that's an interesting name. How did you come up with these names?
Well, Earl, the dog, was named after my own dog, Earl, and I wasn't going to name him Earl, but when I was first doing this trip, I had the honor and pleasure to be friends with Charles Schultz of Peanuts. And Charles Schultz told me I should name the dog after my own dog. So Charles Schultz named the dog Earl. And Mooch was named after, we had cats growing up as kids. And my mom used to call, when a cat gives you that little headbutt to your face, like a little kiss. And my mom always called that a mooch. When the cat gave her a little headbutt to the face, she called that a mooch. So I thought Mooch would be a nice name for the cat. A friend of mine had a cat named Chickpea. And I just thought that was a great name for a cat. So that was the inspiration for Chickpea.
And what about Shtinky Puddin?
Oh,
or Jules. And it's not stinky, it's Shtinky.
Yeah. That's funny. That actually came from a conversation I had with my wife. It was the second cat we had. And like I said, all these cats were feral cats that walked into our life. So we found this little cat that really stunk to high heaven. And we were trying to think of a name for it. And I said, well, let's name him Stinky because he pretty much stank. And my wife said, we can't call him Stinky. We need to call him a cute name like Puddin. So then we called him Shtinky Puddin. That actually came from my life, believe it or not.
That's so cool. Hey, everyone. I just want to tell you about this great new litter I found. Molly and Dennis and Charlotte love it. And what's even more important, Mama loves it a lot. It's called Pretty Litter, and what it does that it makes it so different from any other litter I've ever used is it has a built-in health monitoring system. So the litter actually changes color to let you know if there's anything going on with your cat, because cats hide their health issues. They don't really talk and tell you about it until it's almost too late. So what this does is it starts off really pretty. It's a white crystal, and it will turn colors as your cat does its business. There's actually a color code on the bag, and it lets you know if it turns this color, monitor it because it might be time to see your vet and check it out. Also, what I love is that it's eco-friendly, it's scoopable, it's absorbent, it has low dust, it has great odor control. And probably one of the best things, 1 4-pound bag lasts a month for each cat. That is fabulous. And, I love that, but I love this too. It's also delivered right to your door. You can get it on subscription, and it just comes to your door every month. Now, the other wonderful thing is that I have a special code for all my Cattitude friends. Go to prettylitter.com/cat101. Use the coupon code CAT101 and you'll get 20% off your first subscription order. That's prettylittercats.com/cat101. Use the coupon code CAT101 and you'll get 20% off your first subscription order. Okay, we're talking to Patrick McDonnell, and he is the creator and illustrator for Mutts, which is an amazing comic strip. Okay, you have this huge cast of characters, and I know Earl was based on your own, dog, and then you've had, cats and everything, but which, if you can take away the animals that you personally had that were named after or resembled, which of your characters are your favorites? That's hard one, right? What's your favorite kid or something?
That is a hard one. I mean, they all become family, really. Earl and Mooch. I mean, they're the stars of the script, so I really feel like I know them, and they were both based on cat and dogs I have. So and right now I have another Jack Russell named Amelie, who is a lot like Earl. I mean, Earl lived for 19 years, and when he passed away, I got a new dog. So I see her now in Earl. I mean, I still see the original Earl, but I see the new dog in there. So I love them all.
It's hard to choose. Okay, so let's talk about the dialects, because it's interesting. I see, like, instead of stinky, you have Shtinky. Instead of yes, I hear Yesh. So I'm wondering, and I bet people that read go, I wonder why this guy does this. I wonder what's that's about. So for everyone that's wondering, why is it not yes, but Yesh?
Okay. Well, that's Mooch. Mooch talks silly. I'm a fan of old comic strips, and in the past, a lot of old comic strip, the characters had unique ways of talking, out of like Popeye, I am what I am, and there was an old comic strip where, they played with language more back then, and I always thought I'd want one of my characters to talk a little different. And I had a friend growing up, whenever he got in trouble and his mom would question him, he would say Yesh. And I just thought that was a funny word. So when I first gave it to Mooch, I thought that was going to be it, that he would just say Yesh. But then I had him say Shmaybe, and then before you know it, he was shushing all over the place, and it just became the way he talked.
I love hearing the history and the thoughts behind, because they're just so interesting to me, and I'm sure to everyone listening.
All little bits of your life ends up in the comic strip, when you do one every day.
Of course. And from the many authors, I've had the pleasure, authors, and I've never had a comic strip illustrator before, so you're my first, and I'm so honored. But people have said, put a little of your life inside this, and I always talk about my crew, but yours is more involved, your comic strip, I think, than me just yapping about my crew.
So, well, you mentioned the seal earlier, but that was because in New Jersey I went to a seal release. There's an organization that rescues and rehabilitates seals, and then they take them, when they're all fixed up, they put them back in the ocean. So I had the pleasure of witnessing that, and I thought it would be a nice thing to put in a comic strip.
Well, you do a lot of that, a lot of giving back, and a lot of donating to charities, you're on the board for the Humane Society, your personal site where people can, everyone listening can go to mutts.com. There's all kinds of cool, items that you can purchase, and 5% goes to the Humane Society of the United States. You do so much of this. How did that come about? I mean, how did you get started with giving back? And you do a lot of giving back.
Well, I think what happened, I think the more I worked on the comic strip, and again, even though they talk, I always try to keep my animals as animal-like as possible and try to see the world through their eyes. And the more I was seeing the world through their eyes, the more empathy and compassion I had for them, because, boy, there's a lot of animals on this planet that have it really tough. And, after a while, actually, I was asked to join the Humane Society of the United States, where I served for 18 years. I'm no longer on that board, but I'm still on the Fund for Animals board. And then, with that, I just learned more and more about how tough it is for animals. So I just felt, if I could, get that word out and try to get people to understand what's going on with them and to, have more empathy for them, I thought that's a good part of my job, to try to get that word out. And they really do need everybody's help. So I try to do as much as I can.
I know everyone that's listening is probably nodding going exactly, because you're right. I mean, the more all of us can be a voice for the animals that don't have one, the better it is, And I know that you do a lot of donations to shelters and rescues. And you also have, and I haven't seen all of them yet, but tell us, what is the YouTube Shelter Pet Project? I don't know if that's not very new, but people can go to YouTube and see the...
Yeah, a few years ago, I did a few animation spots to promote shelters. That's a big thing with Mutts. Actually, that was the first animal rights thing I did. When I was doing the strip, I realized that Earl and Mooch had great homes and great guardians. And I started thinking about all the dogs and cats in shelters waiting. So I started doing shelter stories, and I do that 2 weeks out of the year. I just do strips about animals in shelters. And I tell you, nothing gets me happier than to get an email or a letter saying that I inspired someone to go get their new best friend at their local shelter.
Oh, I got goosebumps. All of my fur kids but one were from shelter or rescue, and the one that was not was rescued from a person. So it's menagerie. But there's so many. You've done so much for so many different causes that are out there. What is the one, and so much through, Mutts, what are you most proud of about Mutts? Your Mutts strip.
It's funny. Just the other day, I got a letter from, one of the things that makes me feel a little old, believe it or not, next year is my 25th anniversary of doing Mutts. I've been doing Mutts a long time. And actually, I'm working on a 25th anniversary book that'll come out next year. But just recently, I got a letter from a guy who's trying to save the oceans, trying to get plastics out of the oceans. I don't know if you're aware, but God, our oceans are just filled with plastic, and so many dolphins and whales and fish are just dying, suffocating from all the plastic and eating the plastic. And this guy wrote me to say, he's dedicating his life to that. And I guess he was in his 20s, but, he said he grew up reading Mutts, and, I inspired him to do things like that. So, boy, you never know who you might touch. Recently I did a book about Jane Goodall called Me Jane, a children's book about Jane Goodall. And, Jane was inspired by Tarzan and Dr. Dolittle. I mean, that's what got her thinking about helping animals. And you never know. All you have to do is touch one person, and you don't know, you might change the world, So you always put your best foot forward and hope for the best.
That's a great way to put it, because, that's what I, try to do with Cattitude, and what we try to do, Pet Life Radio. I've had a lot of, shows on Cattitude, a lot of rescue and shelter shows. And sometimes, I know for everybody listening, sometimes it seems like a little too much, but it's to educate people. And just like you said, if it changes the life of one little kitty or one dog out there. I know we're Cattitude, but there's a lot of people have dogs and cats, and, if it changes one, then that's made a difference.
Yeah, there's that, it just builds, one person adopts and then inspires someone else to adopt, and it just keeps on going. So, you're doing great work, and the animals need us, so it's good.
No, you're doing great work. Now I want everybody to know where they can find out. I know I mentioned it once before, but everybody can go to mutts.com. That's it, just mutts.com. And you have... right?
Yeah, Mutts.com, and you can sign up, and for free you can get the daily comic strip delivered to your computer there. You could probably still see it in your local paper if your local paper carries it, but if it doesn't, just sign up at Mutts.com, and every morning you can start the morning with a little Earl and Mooch joke.
Yes, and besides that, you have a lot of cool gear for us pet parents with Earl and Mooch, and just different kinds of, clothing and apparels. You can have a comic strip signed by Patrick, and there's just a lot of, other great things. And you donate a portion of that of your proceeds to charity, right?
Yeah, 5% goes to the Humane Society rescue group, the rescue team at the Humane Society. So your money will go help rescue. When you see those stories about puppy mills and hoarders or whatever, they just, God, those are the real heroes, the people that do the rescue work. But that's where 5% of the profits go. And the people that run the website do a wonderful job.
Well, I just wanted to thank you so much for coming on Cattitude. Oh, before we go, Patrick, there's a movie in the works about Mutts.com, and if people that sign up to your website can find out more about it, because we know Hollywoodland runs really slow.
Extremely slow. Keeping my fingers crossed that it's still going to happen. But yeah, it's been in the works on and off now for a few years. But hopefully it'll happen, and I'll let you know. You'll be the first to know of it when it does.
Yep, and then come back on the show and tell everybody about it. I want to thank you so much for all you do. I think you touch so many lives through Mutts.com, and thank you so much for coming on Cattitude and telling us about Mutts, sharing a little bit more about Earl and Mooch and the rest of the cast.
Oh, thank you, Michelle. It's my pleasure.
Oh, what a great show and so interesting. And huge thank you to my guest, Patrick McDonnell, for telling us all about Mutts.com and for telling us about Mooch, the tuxedo cat, and Earl, the dog. And thank you to my own crew for making me grateful that I get to be a pet parent, to Mr. Z, Nikki, Dennis, Charlotte, and Molly. And also we have Sammy and Jethro. So I got a whole gang. Thanks to my producer, Mark Winter, for making me and my guests sound great. And thank you, a huge thank you to everybody listening, to all my feline friends and pet parents for listening to Cattitude and making our show just so popular out there. We're like one of the top shows on Pet Life Radio. So huge thank you. And keep listening. There's so many great things coming up.
Let's Talk Pets, every week on demand, only on PetLifeRadio.com.